There's a couple students in my class right now who they just ask really insightful questions, really that idea of getting substantive work experience and getting a sense of the things you're studying. The nitty-gritty, not just the sort of textbook version. Bringing people into the classroom, bringing guest speakers into the classroom, just creating these multiple touch points where students can get to know working professionals who are looking for talent. We have employees who have gone to Google, Microsoft, Apple.
Hi guys, today I am at RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology, where I am talking to someone who's heading, who's the department chair of their MIS, Marketing and Analytics Department, Sean. Hi Sean, hi, how's it going?
Hi Raghav, it's great to meet you.
How's your day?
It's going pretty well so far. We actually have lovely weather today. Yesterday was a little rainy. But
Right.
Today it's a lovely fall, Western New York day.
So Sean, tell me, what is your most favorite thing to do in Rochester?
So I like to do a lot of active things. So I recently had a little injury, so it impaired some of that. But trail running, there's a lot of trails around here. So trail running, play basketball across campus here. We have a nice big field house on campus, and we have a group that has consistently been playing basketball there for something like 40 years,
Wow.
I'm told. I wasn't here that whole time.
But this campus is beautiful and it doesn't end. It's so huge.
It's quite large. There's a strip down the middle that's called the quarter mile, even though it's way longer than a quarter mile now.
Right.
But we still call it the quarter mile. And so that's sort of the main artery that everything else springs off of. Yeah.
So now Sean, I wanted to understand that, we have had this partnership between Futurense and RIT, where a lot of students have come for your MSBA, for your MBA programs. Now, before I get into any particular program in specific, MSBA, as we are talking, I just want to understand your experience with the Futurense candidates till now, like those who have done 30% of their coursework in India and the remaining 70% here with US.
I've actually had the opportunity to see those candidates from multiple perspectives because I am the department chair for MIS Marketing and Analytics, where the MS in Business Analytics program is housed. I'm also currently the interim director for that program because our regular director, Professor Manlu Liu, is on sabbatical right now. But I also teach in courses that are offered in both the MSBA and the MBA program. So I've had the opportunity to see the students as candidates, sort of on paper, and I've been very impressed with their qualifications. I think the main focus as we were initiating this program was people with prior technical experience, often engineering degrees. We've seen some who are coming with BCom degrees, but have this great wealth of work experience already. That was another thing that I think in our early design was looking for people who already had some work experience. And I think it has rendered a pool that's just very rich. But I also have the opportunity to see them as an instructor.
Right.
And that's where you really get a sense of who you're working with. And I've been tremendously impressed. It's just a great group. There's a couple students in my class right now who they just ask really insightful questions, and they like to probe the phenomena we're dealing with. If we're dealing with a business case and sort of looking at an organization applying various principles, they don't just sort of look at it as an assignment, but they sort of get into the exercise and really offer their reflections. And it's been really gratifying to see these great candidates coming through.
So Nashaun, tell me, MSB, right? Masters in Business Analytics. This is something that everyone is talking about. It is something that the industry wants. Can you tell us what is the program all about? And if you could give me 2 or 3 highlights of the program that will make it an interesting proposition.
Sure. So a Master of Science in Business Analytics is focusing on the application of data science, right? So often people will look at data science programs, and those are obviously very valuable programs in their own right, but a business analytics program looks at many of those same questions from the perspective of applying that knowledge, right? Working with data to really drive decision-making within organizations and to glean insights from that data. And that's certainly a core focus in our program, trying to give young professionals the insights, not just to make sense out of a set of data, but to really gain insights and drive decisions, to say what should organizations do in various situations that the data is helping support that and providing evidence for that. So really enabling a lot of critical thinking about what's coming out of the data. One of the things that's fairly unique about our program is that in addition to the baseline focus on business analytics, we also have a series of courses where the students apply it within domains.
Right.
So after the initial foundational coursework in business analytics, students will take courses in marketing analytics and accounting analytics or finance analytics. Workforce analytics is an increasingly interesting one that's been introduced. Whole focus on what's sometimes called people analytics, but the use of analytics in HR domains, I think is another area that's really emerging. And that's a very fascinating one because there's a lot of sort of key ethical considerations that firms, that real managers have to take into consideration when you're dealing with driving decision-making about people's livelihoods and experience within an organization based on what is often algorithmic input.
You talk a lot about experiential learning, and we were discussing that also when we were having lunch. The co-op program, I think the co-op part of all the programs is something which is very defining to that.
Sure.
Can you tell us a bit about the idea around co-op? What is co-op, and how is co-op structured here at RIT?
Yeah, so co-op is sort of a defining characteristic at RIT. It's one of the real cores of our identity. And a lot of that is driven by the history of our undergraduate programs. So within our undergraduate programs, students are required to complete at least one co-op or cooperative educational experience. That's where co-op comes from, which a lot of people would think of as an internship. But it is focused work within the domain that a student is studying in. So it's really that idea of getting substantive work experience and getting a sense of the things you're studying, the nitty-gritty of the things you're studying, and not just the sort of textbook version. And so that, for a long time, RIT has had that required co-op at the undergraduate level. At the graduate level, though, that same ethos, that same cultural characteristic of RIT bleeds through. So we know very well that a lot of our graduate students, and I think it's fair to say particularly our international students, are looking for those types of work experiences. And because we've built that infrastructure around, in terms of relationships with employers, routine opportunities for bringing employers onto campus or for getting students in front of firms, bringing people into the classroom, bringing guest speakers into the classroom, just creating these multiple touch points where students can get to know, working professionals who are looking for talent.
Yeah.
I think it really it's a very rich ecosystem in terms of.
So can you tell us some big employers who traditionally hire from RIT?
So it's sort of across the board. So every spring and fall, we have a huge career fair where we're bringing employers into that same field house I referenced earlier where we play basketball, bringing into the field house and filling up the field house with employers. And it really runs the gamut. It's mostly US based, but not entirely US based. But all industries, I can give you definitely a couple specific to the Saunders College of Business, but all industries and all areas of focus. One of the things that's really fascinating there is you will have some large firms with high name recognition, like let's say Google, where there's just a long line. Students are sort of snaking around waiting to talk to Google. And then you'll have other employers that maybe people aren't familiar with, but have a huge impact in their own sector. And I often will tell students, if there's no one talking to a given employer at their station, look at that as an opportunity to have a conversation, right? That's an invitation to a conversation. And if you go up and they say, well, we're not looking for someone in that domain, that's not a reason to walk away. Just have the discussion, get a sense of what they're looking for. So in terms of Saunders College of Business in particular, we have employees who have gone to all of the big technology firms, but also most of the big financial firms, so Google, Microsoft, Apple. In the financial sector, all of the big four accounting firms, all the associated consulting firms, so EY, Accenture, McKinsey. We had one of our recent graduates was at McKinsey for a number of years. And then, again, less conventional firms, or firms that you wouldn't necessarily associate with a technology domain. But I think what we know is in the current marketplace, all firms are technology firms.
Right.
Right. Every firm is being valued by the financial sector for their ability to leverage technology.
True.
And so firms like Target, one of our recent graduates went to work for Target in the front office working on data analytics. We've had a lot of our graduates go to work with Major League Sports teams, and in almost each of those cases, it was to work on data analytics facets of the business.
Right. Now, as I was telling, I know you run a podcast as well, where you talk a lot about technology, about AI, about how the world is changing. Now, on one side, we are reading that AI is coming, AI is taking over jobs. On the other side, we are talking that business analytics is a skill of the future. So why would you call something like a business analytics a skill of the future in context of AI?
I think this is one of those, because business analytics requires human judgment and insight, right? The tools are very much algorithmic. The tools that, and this is why the applied nature of business analytics is so important, right? I think there are some fields that will be challenged in terms of their contemporary, actually all fields will be challenged, right? In the coming years, I think we're going to see the reshaping of almost all domains. But those which require a human touch and insight and judgment are the ones that I think will be able to leverage AI applications and tools most effectively. And I think the business analytics domain is exactly one of those, right? It's much easier to generate code now because of the use of large language models that will do it for you, or low-code development environments. These things make it much easier to generate code, but it doesn't necessarily enable you to do the interpretation, right? And we still have that human element of getting insight and driving decisions out of the output that those tools are giving you. In terms of efficiencies, I think we'll continue to see huge efficiency gains because of the technologies that are being introduced right now. But we still need that human judgment piece.
Now, I have a lot of students who are confused whether they should do a master's in business analytics or should do an MBA. And that is one classic problem we are having here at RIT, where we have both very solid programs. Now, obviously, you are on the business analytics side, but if I had to ask for a holistic answer, why should I choose what?
Yeah, so I'm gonna throw a little curveball in there. I'm actually the former director of our MBA program.
Oh, wow.
Too. So about 8 years ago, I was the director of the MBA program. So I think I actually have the perspective on both sides of this. And I think it's a really important question. I think the choice between programs should really be driven by what you want to do in your career and what you see as your longer term aspirations. And sometimes you will have people make decisions based on, I would say, purely pragmatic things like, how many credit hours do I need? Why would I take an MBA that might require 48 credit hours and could run to 2 years, as opposed to an MS in business analytics or any specialized MS degree that's 30 credit hours 1 year, right? And the issue is, what do you want to do with your degree? And you shouldn't make that determination just based on how many credits you have to sit in the class. If you know fairly well what you want to do at a professional level, and it sits well within one of those specialized MS degrees, then by all means that MS degree might be the perfect choice. If you know that you want to work in business analytics and really driving insights from data, I think MS in business analytics is an excellent option. Alternatively, if your vision is sort of a little more varied in terms of your desire for leadership and managerial opportunities, you might want to explore different facets of business, including finance or management or marketing or information systems management, any of those, then an MBA might make more sense, because an MBA by its nature is a generalist degree in the sense that you have to have a strong foundation in all the different aspects of business. You have to understand finance and information systems and marketing and accounting and organizational behavior, operations research, supply chain management, all those pieces. And so you really have to get a sense of those different facets. In a specialized MS degree, you don't need that type of breadth, right? And so you might not get the grounding in those other aspects of business. Whereas an MBA degree really does give you that firm grounding. And so I think critically thinking or reflecting on what do I want this graduate degree to do for me in my career is the core question, and should really drive you to which program best fits your aspirations.
So now if someone who's planning to apply for your Master's in Business Analytics or for the MBA. Can you tell us what are certain things that the admission committee looks for?
Sure. I think it is a little different between the two. I think specifically for the MS in Business Analytics, our general expectation is people coming with some prior technical undergraduate degree. So obviously a lot of the applicants we've seen so far tend to be coming in with engineering degrees of some sort. And I think that's been a really valuable sort of focus. And then in addition to that, we'd like to see some evidence of prior work experience, again, substantive work experience for at least a couple of years usually. We have seen some applicants coming with BCom degrees, and that's okay as well. I think in those cases, particularly if you have a couple of years of work experience, it sort of enriches our feeling that you're going to get real value out of this MSBA program. I think in the MBA program, the profile might be similar, but maybe a little less focused specifically on the prior technical foundations. I do think, in general, a business degree can be a very valuable complement to a technical prior undergraduate study in a technical field, because often the undergraduate study gives you core scientific or technical foundations, but not necessarily that applied piece. And that applied piece is what can often make or break careers. I shouldn't say break careers. I don't want to be overly pessimistic. But there's strong evidence that the people who have the fastest career trajectories moving into management roles are people who have both strong foundations in a given domain, but also a great sense of how it applies to the other aspects of the organization. Business organizations are complex systems, and understanding how the parts interact and that those interactions matter is a really important part of career success. And so I think people who have those combinations, it's sort of like arrows in a quiver. It really adds the richness of your professional to your professional profile.
Perfect. I think we are now on the last segment. Firstly, about the city.
Yeah.
Like, what do you do outside of working? Like, what is there to do here?
Rochester's a fascinating city because of its history, but we will often hear people comment on weather and things like that because we do. We get all 4 seasons here for sure. But it's a smaller city. When people hear New York, they tend to think of New York City. We're at the opposite corner of New York, much smaller city. But one of the things that I've just loved about Rochester is that it is a small city with a disproportionately large arts infrastructure. And some of this goes back to the history of the city. George Eastman founded Kodak here. Bausch Lomb was founded here back in the 19th century. Xerox, several large firms were founded here in the 19th century and created sort of a base of philanthropic giving that has resulted in a very strong arts infrastructure. And what I mean by arts infrastructure is museums, a great philharmonic orchestra, arts festivals that happen all weekends throughout basically spring through autumn. There's a great museum here called the Museum of Play. That is, it's a great place to take your kids, but even for a grown adult, it's just a fascinating place to spend an afternoon. So that sort of that arts support for the arts and rich arts tradition within Rochester, I think, has made it just a great supports a great quality of life in this area. And I do encourage students, graduate students in particular, because they often live off campus, to really explore the area, get to know the community that you're living in, and go out on the weekends. And the area around us is very rich in natural resources. We are in the region of New York State called the Finger Lakes region. And you could Google Finger Lakes and you'll see just beautiful, beautiful areas, lots of wineries, lots of craft breweries. I'm a fan of the craft breweries myself. And it is just the traditions and the organizations in this area are really rich in complementing that sort of natural resources of the region.
Perfect. I think this was a supremely helpful conversation, Sean. I would just like to end by saying that for Futurense, it's a great partnership to partner with you guys at RIT. And for all our students who have come here, they're supremely happy. They are giving us a great feedback. So we really appreciate that opportunity.
You'll have to ask any of my current students after they've gotten through the class. I'm enjoying my time with them, so I hope they're feeling the same.
Perfect.
But no, I want to thank you. I think the partnership has been great. We really appreciate it. We very much value not just the access to this great pool of excellent students, but also the insights that Futurense is really bringing to us about the needs of young professionals seeking these graduate studies. So it's been a really mutually enriching
Perfect.
initiative.
Thank you, Sean. Appreciate it.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks. It was great to speak with you.
Same here.